Okay, welcome in one and all. Welcome back. I'm now going to be doing my previews for Saturday's matchups, and there's quite a hefty schedule, but that comes with every Saturday and the NHL that kind of go hand in hand. So our first matchup takes place in Canada's national uh, city, if that makes any sense, the capital, I should say, between the Ottawa Senators and the Detroit Red Wings, two teams that have been in the same division since the 2013-2014 realignment. So these teams are more than familiar with each other, to say the least, over the last decade. I want to give the edge to the Senators in this matchup. I just think they have a very good team, and home ice can obviously play a factor in almost any matchup in the league. So I'll give the edge to the Senators. They should be able to get the victory over the Detroit Red Wings. Our next matchup takes place. Let's see if I can find it. Where are we? Between two Western teams that used to be in the same division, but now that the Seattle Kraken are in here, one team had to get bumped, move over to the Central. So we have two teams that used to be in the same division but aren't anymore. The Coyotes and the Ducks are playing against one another. I'm going to give the edge in this contest to the Coyotes. Maybe they're, despite not having the actual NHL arena, maybe they have enough fans in their arena that could possibly get them over the edge and give them the victory in this particular matchup. So I will give the Coyotes the edge in this matchup. I just have to write down a couple of quick notes, so just bear with me momentarily. Okay. So now the next matchup takes place. Where are we? Time-wise. Okay. North of the border in La Belle Province, or I guess the team that I cheer for. So we have the Washington Capitals heading into Montreal to take on the Canadiens. The Capitals are coming into this matchup at 1-2-0, and the Canadiens are sitting at 1-1-1. So this is going to be one of those matchups. It's like a flip of a coin. Could be one or the other. Obviously, one team has to win. I'm going to give the edge to the Habs in this matchup. I just think that the Capitals are kind of playing a little flat, and I just read a stat the other day that saying Ovechkin hasn't been able to have this or won like 2 consecutive games without even getting a shot on net, which is very unlike him. But I'm very much aware that Father Time most likely is catching up to the guy who is still trying to chase Gretzky's record. Yeah, it's again. I could go 0 for 15. I could go who knows how this particular game is going to match up. I guess it's just too early in the season to really give one team a favorite over the other, considering both teams only have one win respectively between the two clubs thus far. If we were midway through the season or almost done the season, obviously if one team had a better record than the other, I'd favor that. But because they're both pretty much at 500, again, it's a flip of a coin. Anyone can win this early in the season. Our next matchup takes place in New York, where we would have the Buffalo Sabres. They're playing host to the New York Islanders. The Islanders are coming into this matchup sitting at 2-0-1, while the Sabres are coming into this matchup sitting at 1-3-0. I know in the offseason I gave the Sabres a lot of praise, and I even think when I did their first preview of the season, when it came to the first game of the year, I think I said that they could be one of those underdog teams that could take a step forward this season, and so far it does not look like that at all. So therefore, I'm going to give the edge to the Islanders in this matchup. I believe they should be able to get their third win of the season, while Buffalo, yet again, is struggling out of the gate of the season. Our next matchup then takes place in the state of Florida, where we have the Florida Panthers, and they are playing host to the Vancouver Canucks. So the Canucks are coming in, losing 2 straight games after starting the season off 2-0. They are sitting at 2-2-0, while the Panthers are also sitting at 2-2-0, but they won their last game, so I'm pretty sure they're not really complaining this just yet. I'm going to give the edge to the Panthers in this one. I just believe that they're a gritty team, and they're not a team that's going to blow you away like 7-2 or 6-3, whatever the case may be. I think it's going to be like one of those how's that saying go? Like fighting tooth and nail kind of thing. Like they're a grinding team to say the least, and they're going to wear you down over time. Obviously, they did that last postseason when they won 3 rounds on their way to their second Stanley Cup appearance, Cup final appearance. So I think that's going to be it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a really tough contest. There's no easy wins, and especially against this team, a Paul Maurice led team at that. I just think they're going to be a tough team to beat moving forward. So I will give the edge to the Panthers in this particular matchup. Staying in the state of Florida, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are hosting a team they're very much familiar with. Obviously, the last 2 postseasons, these 2 teams met in the first round. Tampa got the better of them in 2022, and obviously the Leafs finally got off the schneid after not being able to make it the second round since 2004. They finally took down the beasts of the East and got into the second round of the playoffs after finally beating a team and beating their Atlantic Division foes. The Leafs are coming in this matchup losing 2 straight games. The Lightning are sitting at 2-2-1 on the season. So again, just like my first prediction, it's going to be very hard to make one team favored over the other, considering I thought after losing Vasilevsky that Tampa would probably be very, very playing poorly, but they seem to be still staying afloat. So we'll see how long it takes for them to get Vasilevsky back and see if they can stay above water or above 500 or around the 500 record by the time Vasilevsky is able to return. So I'm going to give the edge to the Leafs in this matchup. Please don't burn me again. I did predict them to win the last 2 games, and they still lost. So this is either going to be a 3-game losing streak if the Lightning can pull this one off, or the Leafs will finally stop the bleeding and get back to above 500 play. But I just believe overall the Leafs are the better team, and they should be able to pull this one off on Saturday night. Our next matchup takes place in Illinois, where, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be the first home game for the Chicago Blackhawks, but they have a very tough contest in the defending Stanley Cup champions. So I believe the Bedard hype is going to be real. I'm pretty sure they started the season off on a 5-game away trip, which is unreal and unheard of. So the Blackhawks are finally playing their first home game of the season. They are sitting at 2-3-0. So in all reality, it's not that bad of a start, winning 2 out of your first 5 games. It really isn't that bad. And speaking of not bad, the Golden Knights are playing unbelievable. The first team with double-digit points on the season. They are sitting at 5-0 thus far. I'm going to give the edge to the Golden Knights. They just seem to have something there's just something about this team, and I just can't put my finger on it. But it doesn't matter whether you're the forward, defenseman, goaltending. There's no question marks about anything in that category. As I've said from the very beginning, they should be favorites to repeat as Pacific champions. They should be able to compete again for yet another cup. Whereas for obviously for the Blackhawks, they are still rebuilding. Yeah, they have their franchise guy in Bedard, but I still don't think it's going to be enough to get the team back in the postseason. So Golden Knights still should be perfect after they leave Illinois. Our next matchup takes place in Texas, where we have the Philadelphia Flyers heading into Dallas to take on the Stars. 2 teams that are off to good starts thus far. The Flyers are sitting at 3-1-0 after 4 games, while the Stars have gotten points in all 3 of their games. They are sitting at 2-0-1 thus far on the season. I'm going to give the edge to the Stars in this match. I just think that there's something about this team that I don't want to say they're underrated. I still believe they're going to be very good, and they should finish, as I said in my preview video with this team, at least in the top 3 in that Central Division. So I'm going to give the edge to the Stars in this particular matchup. And they should be able to pull this one out on Saturday night. Our next matchup takes place in Minnesota, where we have the Minnesota Wild, who are playing host to a team that they came in the league with back in the 99-2000, or maybe it was the 2000-2001 campaign, but both of these were 2 new franchises back in the early 2000s. The Columbus Blue Jackets are coming into Minnesota to take on the Wild. Both of these teams are sitting at 2-2-0, coming into their 5th game of the season. I'm going to give the edge to the Wild. I believe that they're going to be a very good team. They've obviously proven that they're a very good team after their 2 wins. It's maybe too early to tell, about weaknesses and strengths of certain teams, but if you look at both these teams on paper, the Wild should be favored in this particular matchup. I just think they're going to be very competitive, and just like the Stars, I think they're going to be at least in the top three of that Central Division. So I will give the edge to Minnesota, and I'm going to sound like a broken record after saying it probably 3 times already in this video. Our next matchup takes place in Tennessee, where we have the San Jose Sharks, who are heading into Nashville to take on the Predators. The Sharks are still winless on the season after 4 games. They are sitting at 0-3-1, while the Predators are sitting at 2-3-0. I'm going to give the edge to the Predators in this matchup. I believe they could be one of those teams when season ends that could get into a wild card spot, unless they can really shock people and like be ahead of Minnesota or potentially Nashville. Minnesota or Dallas. But I just think it's going to be hard to climb that mountain, even though we're still early in the season. But I still believe the Predators should be able to squeeze in a wild card spot, or at least finish close enough to a wild card spot. I don't see them completely falling off the map, especially with the additions that they have had added in the offseason. So I will give the edge to Nashville, and I still believe that San Jose are going to be winless after 5 games. Our next matchup takes place in Missouri, where we have the St. Louis Blues, who are playing host to the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins are coming into this matchup sitting at 2-2-0, while the Blues have ones all across the board. 1 regulation win, 1 regulation loss, and 1 overtime/shootout loss thus far on the season. So this one here, again, could go either way. I will give the edge to the Penguins in this particular matchup. I just believe that because the Blues lost their last one, it's going to be hard to get that momentum going. And this Penguins team, even though they only have 2 wins thus far on the season, they could be a team that starts getting on the right tracks and keep this little momentum going. And I do believe the Penguins should prevail in this particular matchup, getting a win against the Blues. Our next matchup takes place in Colorado, where we would have the, obviously, Colorado Avalanche playing host to a very good team from the Eastern Conference in the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, I might be getting way ahead of myself, but imagine this being like a Cup final preview. I know we're still only 5 games into the season, and I could be talking out of my you-know-where, but I think this would be very intriguing. Have a very good team on both sides of the ice. The Hurricanes are sitting at 3-2-0 on the season, while the Avalanche are one of the few undefeated teams coming into this particular matchup. To be honest, I think this game is going to be pretty close. And again, I don't like making predictions, but this could honestly, again, take overtime or a shootout to decide a winner. There's just that much talent on both sides of the ice that I don't think one team's going to blow out the other one. I don't see it being like a 5-1 finish or a 4-0 win. I truly believe it's going to be gritty, to say the least. So I'll give the edge to the Avalanche this one. I think they will be able to pull this one off, but again, I don't think they're going to run away against the Hurricanes. Our next matchup takes place north of the border. We have 3 more games to preview, where we would have the struggling team against another struggling team from Canada, where we have the Winnipeg Jets are heading into Edmonton. Both of these teams are sitting at 1-3-0. Obviously not an ideal start for either of these clubs. The Oilers, after losing their first 2 games, finally got the win against Nashville. Everyone thought, here we go. Now they're going to be able to get their you-know-what going, only to completely come off the tracks against the Flyers. So they're sitting at 1-3-0. And obviously the Jets coming off a loss against a foe in the Vegas Golden Knights. So they're not sitting very pretty right now. So both these teams still only have 2 points on the year. Oh, this is one of those matchups where I really can't pick one team or the other. Like, both teams are struggling, to say the least. I'm going to give the edge to the Oilers, but I feel like every time I pick them to win, they always lose. So if they end up losing this matchup, I won't be surprised. But back on home ice, I would hope for their sake that they can finally get a win. Because if they start the season off 1-4, there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of question marks. especially for a team that's supposed to be competitive in the Pacific and also favored to be able to get into the Cup Finals. So you don't want to be starting the season off 1-4. So for the Oilers, I don't want to say it's a must-win, but it's definitely a must-win. Our next matchup takes place in Seattle, who finally got their first win of the season. They are now playing host to the New York Rangers. The Rangers are coming into this matchup sitting at 2-2-0, and the Kraken, which I just previously mentioned, finally got their first win of the season. They're sitting at 1-3-1. I'm going to give the edge to the Rangers in this particular matchup. Again, the Kraken, even though they had a huge win against the Hurricanes, I don't see lightning striking twice. I think the Rangers will be able to prevail and get their third win of this young season. And finally, the last matchup on Saturday takes place in good old California, where we'd have the Los Angeles Kings playing host to one of the few undefeated teams in the Boston Bruins. The Bruins are coming into this matchup after 3 games, 3-0-0, and the Kings are sitting at 2-1-1. Could this possibly be the one matchup that ends the Bruins streak, or could the Bruins possibly still continue to be perfect on this young season? I'm going to say yes. I just think that overall the Bruins are the better team between these two. Yeah, the Kings got a huge win just the other night against the Jets, but I just think there's something about this Bruins team that I don't want to say they have a chip on their shoulder, but obviously they have a lot to prove now that both Bergeron and Krejci are gone, so they've lost their 2 top centers. So can they be able to replicate last season? I don't know, but so far they haven't shown any signs that they're slowing down. So I just believe overall the Bruins should be able to prevail and continue their hot streak at the start of the year. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, please feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative at the same time. And as always, take care.